Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talk as if you're a serious journalist?
We can't say we will impeach him. We can say we'll call for it. We don't know because we don't have all the blue dogs with us on this subject.
Sure he is.
So let's look at their words.
The U.S. Capitol Police Stephen Son, he just informed me what you will hear through official channels. Paul Irving, your Sergeant at Arms, will inform you that their best information is that they believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour.
Former Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Son, who has been a hero in the aftermath of January 6th, is calling out Nancy Pelosi. Remember, we saw her snap at a journalist yesterday. The journalist is named Allison Steinberg. She reports over for Lindell TV. She did an amazing job asking Nancy Pelosi some very important questions about her role in January 6th and why Nancy Pelosi didn't allow the National Guard to come in for a long time. Remember, Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Son is this guy right here. We remember who he is. He wrote a book about this. He testified in front of Congress many times. Former chief of the Capitol Police. Nancy Pelosi basically blamed him and tried to frame him for all of the problems on January 6th. But the videos that have come out now show Nancy Pelosi, of course, has to accept responsibility because she was Speaker of the House. The House Sergeant at Arms reported to her, and the Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Son reported to him. So they had to get Nancy's approval to get the National Guard. Now, yesterday, she flipped out and says, "Stop your Republican lies and talking points. Stop saying these things to my face." As a reminder, here was her meltdown.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day? Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day?
Here
Why
it comes.
did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you,
Perfect.
Pelosi.
Flawless smile to the camera and 100% success rate on the question. Amazing all around. Now, the problem with this is Nancy's lying, right? She had a say in the deployment of the National Guard. And we already read through the letter from Mayor Muriel Bowser. Trump and his people were prepared to deploy additional assets and resources. They all said no. Trump could have overruled them, is the argument, but he didn't because he's not a dictator. They said, we don't need them, so he didn't overrule them on January 5th. They needed, on the day of, they needed approval in order for the person who could make the call to bring them in from Nancy Pelosi. And the guy who was going to make that call was Stephen Son. He says, "Ma'am, Nancy, let me help refresh your memory. It was your Sergeant at Arms who repeatedly denied my multiple requests for National Guard assistance before and on January 6th. You denied it. Even on January 6th, your Sergeant at Arms denied my urgent requests for over 70 minutes while he was, quote, running it up the chain for your approval. 70 minutes. The Pentagon offered National Guard assistance, but I had to decline because your Senate, your House Sergeant at Arms would not grant me the legal authority as required under federal law." And he gave us a whole timeline of this. Here are Chief Son's requests for National Guard support on January 3rd, 3 days before, 9/24. He says, "Can we bring some additional support over here?" Pelosi's Sergeant at Arms, Irving, says, "Well, I don't like the optics of all the National Guard around here because we want the optics to be the Capitol being ransacked. So we can blame Trump on that and then impeach him and then prevent him from ever running again. Since we stole this last election, we're freaked he's going to win the next one." January 3rd, denied. January 3rd, again, 3 hours go by. He says, why don't I go check with the Senate and see what they say? Senate Sergeant at Arms, Stanger, he concurs. He says, "We don't want any troops here. We don't need it. We're good." He made the request. He got rejected by Pelosi and McConnell. Then on January 6th at 12:58, he says, "Irving needs to run it up the chain to Pelosi." Okay, it's January 6th. A lot of people showed up now. And by the way, there were many reports saying that this was going to be jam-packed. FBI, a lot of people had reports saying, yeah, a lot of activity is coming on January 6th. They all knew, and they didn't do anything about it. Why is that? Irving needs to run it up to the chain to Pelosi. She says, "We don't want the National Guard." The day of. Then January 6th, 1:05, Son goes over to Stanger in the Senate and says, "Can we? Senate, you're Mitch McConnell. You're his dude, Republican. Can you please approve us request from the Senate side to bring in the National Guard, Stanger says, sorry, Nancy Pelosi's Sergeant-at-Arms is running things, and I don't want to override him. So no, that's at 1:05 p.m. on January 6th. No, sorry. Then at 1:21, 15 minutes later, Stanger is still waiting for Irving. He's like, can I get permission from him? Like, we both have to turn our keys. Then Irving, Pelosi's person, the House Sergeant-at-Arms, is still waiting for the okay from Pelosi. That's at 1:28 in the afternoon. Still waiting. Can we call him? 1:34. Sun checks in. Hey, has she approved it yet? Like, every minute counts, bro. Irving still is waiting from the okay from Pelosi. Denied, denied, denied. How about now? How about now? How about now? 1:39, Senate is waiting to concur with the House, so McConnell's people, who hates Trump too. Irving says, okay, coming soon from Pelosi at 1:45. Yeah, any minute now. At 2:01, another 15 minutes go by. Says, hey, you're waiting any minute from Pelosi? Like, this is all escalating, all right? It's been 2 hours, or an hour so far. Then Irving gives authorization from Pelosi, and Stanger from McConnell approves it. That all happens at 2:08 p.m. So how come Nancy Pelosi and her goons, Irving and Stanger, how come they denied all actions that would have brought additional support in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times? And then they're going to blame Trump for this. If Trump would have overruled them and said, well, you guys are idiots, and I'm just going to deploy the National Guard to the Capitol building, do you know what kind of a meltdown that would have been? They would have said he's sending troops to take over the Capitol building. That's their building. This is a separation of powers problem. He can't go interfere with that. If they don't want him there, they don't have him there. So he didn't. And they said he didn't send them. First of all, he wanted to, and Mayor Muriel Bowser said no. And she said, Muriel Bowser, on the 5th, in the letter that they sent back, that she was working with these people, called the House Sergeant-at-Arms, Irving and Stanger, working with them to say, we got it all covered. So then they tried to frame Trump for this. They said, well, he refused to send the National Guard. And the reason for that is because he wanted this so-called insurrection to happen so that he could stop the count and steal the election and all the things, which was never true at all. That entire component of their fake narrative just falls out from under them, thankfully, because we have honest people like Stephen Sun who are now out here revealing the truth about what ultimately went down. He also posted something else. Somebody responded to him and said, you know, she still had no authority to call them. If someone claims they didn't do their job because someone didn't like the optics, they still failed at their job, but it wasn't hers. It wasn't hers to do. He said, well, if you don't believe me, Stephen Sun, just take a look at US code right here and look at the news reports about why they changed the rules, because the law prevented me from calling in the National Guard without Capitol Police Board approval. And he links over to the actual changed law. You can see the Capitol Police Emergency Assistant Act of 2021, which came out published December 22nd, 2021, of course, after January 6th had occurred. And what they are doing is changing his powers. He didn't have the power to do it. He needed to go get approval and never got it. So they changed it. They said emergency assistance for the Capitol Police. Bunch of changes. Okay, in paragraph 1, delete this, add this. In subclause, strike this one and do other things, but add this. They say now in December, after January 6th, the chief of police of Capitol Police, if they have determined that they need assistance to prevent a significant disruption, then they can do it. The Capitol Police Board may revoke a request for assistance, but if there's an emergency, basically, an appointment under the section due to an emergency determined by the Capitol Hill chief of police, then he can call in resources, essentially, right? He couldn't do it before. He needed Nancy and the House, the official sources of power, to do it at the time. He couldn't do it. So he was calling her, can I use your power, your authority to do it? And she just dragged her feet on it until the last final minute. And Stephen Sun was talking to her days before saying, can you please give us permission now? They said no. So here's another clip and more of them talking about this behind the scenes.
Apart because it's a diversionary tactic.
Understood. So we can pull this card out. After he's going to finish this card, we can pull it out for Q&A.
Okay. And then we can't say we will impeach him. We can say we'll call for it. We don't know because we don't have all the blue dogs with us on this subject.
Curious.
So let's look at the words.
And I would just say, and to declare every day at the Capitol a national security event. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What a mess.
You did it.
What a mess. Did you have any confidence in this? I mean, son, what do you think then?
I think that it was the plan that they briefed on with the number of stakeholders that have signed off on it. We had some anxiety just about the
I'm
president.
just on that before today.
Oh, he was on our first voice before today. No. We've always been skeptical. always been skeptical of some. He's a terrible relationship.
No, he doesn't.
He's particularly been, I think, not great handling the coronavirus pandemic with the workforce.
Put your mask on.
He has done some good things well. He's hired well at the sort of third tier rank. He's done some good things on the operational side, but he's not a strong leader.
Well, let me say it this way.
So they're plotting to blame him. They're plotting to impeach Trump and creating a narrative from their own failures. But here was what Stephen Sun said. I was denied security resources repeatedly before and during January 6th. Despite those denials and delays, I resecured the U.S. Capitol within hours. And for that, I was forced to resign. I was humiliated and I was stripped of my benefits. And this dude has been put through the ringer, and we're happy to see him speaking out, and we support him.
It was a phone call that occurred about 6 p.m. the day of the attack.
And I'm at the Capitol building. I'm literally standing with the chief of police of the U.S. Capitol Police, Stephen Sun. He just informed me what you will hear through official channels. Paul Irving, your sergeant at arms, will inform you that their best information is that they believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour. They also confirmed to me they have thousands of law enforcement. They're confident that they can secure the cameras.
Yeah, Stephen Sun did a great job responding to a setup that they created, and they smeared him for it. And so we're happy to see him swinging back at him and calling Pelosi what she is, a liar. She could have approved the National Guard to be deployed way earlier, but they didn't want that to happen. They could have approved it days earlier, but they didn't want that to happen because this is something that was very useful to them. They waged political warfare against President Trump and his entire base for years, weaponized the entire government to do it. Now the truth is coming out, and we're grateful to Stephen Sun for explaining the truth so aggressively because we need it.